Hello guys, this is your friend from ninjavibeZ and we are back with a new fanfic, which is What If Naruto Was Exiled with Kurama and Rose as the founder of New Shiogakure with Queen Hinata Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. What? He shouted. The original Naruto was going through the corridor he chosen as discreetly as possible. He soon reached a wooden door in a large hallway along his path. He slowly opened the door and peeked inside. He looked around to see nothing, but rows of tubes inside with no one in sight. Nar slowly went in as he looked around and examined to see the tubes were filled with what looked like deformed human fish-like hybrids. As he was about to touch a tube, the floor below gave out, revealing a trap door. Nar had little time to react as he fell down the trap door. Elsewhere, Ari and Altair were being surrounded by several deformed humans. "Hey, Ari, can you feel it?" Altair asked. Ari's eyes narrowed as she let out a low growl. "Yeah, these people have a corrupted version of senjutsu in their bodies. The worst part is that it's not in balance with their chakra and has caused them to go completely insane. Let's not forget those missing islanders that have been turned into those fish monsters. These guys, however, also have senjutsu implanted in them and have turned in mindless monsters, meaning the only way to put them out of their misery is to kill them." Ari nodded. "Yeah." Suddenly, Ari felt Naruto trying to contact her through their connection. "Ari, can you hear me?" "What's wrong, Kit?" "I found the prisoners and I'm taking them out of the island." "Have you relayed this message to your original? He should be aware." "Okay, there's something you should know. Some of these prisoners belong to clans, two of which I think are able to use magic. And there are some girls that belong to the Uzumaki clan." "What?" Ari shouted out loud, surprising Altair and the rest. Ari dodged a surprised attack due to her distraction and quickly cut off the poor bastard's head off his body. "Yeah, I was just as surprised. I'm taking them all out along with another guy the first found from Kiri." "Okay. Good luck, Narutkin. Please be careful. I promise Ari-chan." Ari cut the link as she focused on the enemy in front of her. "What's up?" a curious Altair asked. "Naruto's clones found the prisoners and is getting them out," Ari responded. Altair blinked in confusion. "Why the freak out?" "He found 3 clans also being held prisoner. 2 of the clans he believes are magic users. And there are some girls from the Uzumaki clan." "Are you serious?" Altair shouted in shock. She did not think they'll meet any clans that use magic so soon. Then again, Narutkin seems to have blessed luck when it involves stuff like this. "Yeah, I was just as surprised, but we need to focus on our current issue." Altair nodded. "Right," she said as the C duo continued the vicious beatdown on the mindless monsters. "So your name is Sugetsu and you want to resurrect the 7 swordsmen of the mist and be their new leader?" Nar inquired. "Right," Sugetsu answered. "And you want to find Zabuza's blade since he was your senpai and it was meant to be passed to you if he stayed in Kiri, right again? And do tell me, how do you plan to do all of this with Kiri still in a civil war?" Sugetsu shrugged his shoulders. "Hey, I never said it would be easy, but where's the fun of just finding them? That makes getting the blades more fun." Nar was in deep thought. If he got Sujitsu to join him, he could get some info on Kiri. It could be outdated, but any info from a swordsman of the mist could be very valuable. The question was how to get him to agree. He knew of only one way of getting him to join, but he really was not a fan of the idea. But it was the only idea he had to convince him to join his cause, and this would speed his plans to honor Zabuza and Haku. "What if I were to tell you I could give you one of the blades? Specifically, Zabuza's blade," Naruto finally said. Sugetsu blinked in his tank. "What? I can get you the blade, but I require something from you. What do you want? Suigetsu asked with a suspicious tone. The last thing he wanted was to become someone else's lab rat. Nothing much for now, but we less than greater than LL talk later. Suigetsu thought about this. If he was being serious, then this could be his first steps to bringing back the Seven Swordsmen. But how did he know if he could trust this guy? How do I know? You're not pulling my leg. Tsubas's blade was used as his grave marker, and I know exactly where it is. Suigetsu couldn't see Naruto's eyes, but his body language and tone told him he was not lying. Well, going with him is better than staying here. Get me out and get me the sword and we less than greater than LL talk, he said. Nar nodded. Right, Nar said before smashing the tube and freeing Suetsu. At least you got boxers on. Nar commented on the former imprisoned teen's appearance. Suiju snorted. That was my only luck being stuck there. Let's get out of here. Don't have to tell me twice. Who are you? Sona asked for the 100th time. This is not the time or place for this conversation. So would you please just get on the seals? Nar said impatiently. While Nar could transport SAM-L groups of people, large groups like this caused him to use seals to help him. Thankfully, he left a teleportation seals outside the cave in case of anything. Why should we trust you? Rainer said. Nar was getting impatient. Are you kidding me? Would you rather become breeding for that bastard, Amachi? Watch you tone, you know nothing of what we have suffered. Do you know who you're talking to? Sona said in an arrogant tone. Sona was then bombarded by a strong ki that caused everyone to buckle to their knees. They looked to see the looming body of Naruto looking down at them as lighting danced around him. Even with mask on, they could tell he was pissed. WH the hell do you think you are? I go out of my way to save your asses, and this is the thanks I get. Nar was seriously getting tired of having to deal with people like this. He understood they've gone through but did they really think that entitled them to say like that to him? Nar would have said more if he was not insured by chains colored yellow and white. He turned his head to see two of the Uzumaki girls using their chains against him. Hey, don't yell at her, shouted Karen. Don't even think about moving. Those chains will hold you down, Hanoka said. Nar just sighed in annoyance before he released his own silver chains that broke the ones binding him. This shocked the red-headed girls to the core. You have C chains, but that's impossible, Karen said. The only way you could have is if you are. Ra began as Naruto nodded. Yeah, I am an Uzumaki. I am half on my mother's side, he said. But why the black hair? Moriana asked. It's less than greater than a disguise to make sure. No one will recognize me. So why are you here? Akino asked, trying to be considerate to their savior. It was the least she could do. I came here to find the missing islanders and to discover more about Amachi's connection to Orochimaru, but you guys are taking my priority at the moment. Nar then looked at them again. Now, can you all please get on the seals? Sona and several others were still hesitant, but Seraphil walked up to him. The two stared at one another in silence. Everyone watched the interaction with anticipation, wondering what will happen. I trust you, Seraphil finally said with a smile. Everyone from the two clans looked shocked at her declaration. Nay, Sana said with disappointment. So-chan if wasn't for Seraphil began before pausing. She blushed as she did not know what to call their savior. You can call me Menma for now. Nar said noticing her dilemma. Seraphil nodded in appreciation. If it weren't for Monacan, we would all still be in those cages. This is our only chance out of here. So, let's take it, she said. I agree with the girl. I rather go with him than stay here, said one of the newly freed mermen. Sona and several others looked between Menma and the ones on the seal before finally sighing in defeat. All right, you win. Sona relented. Serafel smiled in appreciation. Nar nodded. Everyone now on the seals. Let's go. That was the clone's last words as everyone was teleported out of the underground laboratory. I can't believe for such an obvious trap. The girls are never going to let me live this down. Nar stood up as two men fell down across from him. It was the one of the goons from earlier and they were probably the ones tailing him yesterday. Looks like we have a catch. Too bad it's only one, but I guess we could share beating him to a pulp. Nar glared as he flared his power, causing the two to falter a bit. If you are so sure, come at me. It will be the last thing you'll do, he warned darkly. The two shivered before regaining their confidence. You got quite the arrogance there. Reminds me of the Uchiha. Nar growled, arms stretched to grab hold of him, but Nar jumped back. The other came behind and grabbed his arm. Nar felt a small bit of his chakra being absorbed before he kicked him away. Now I remember these two. They were Kabuto's teammates in the Tunin exams. What were their names? Yoroi and Masumi, I think. Yoroi kept trying to grab him to siphon his chakra. However, he was soon captured by the legs by Masumi, who gave a cocky grin. Yoroi then grabbed Nar on his head and began to siphon off his chakra, but Nar barely felt anything. What the hell? How much chakra do you have? An incredulous Yoroi asked. More than you could ever understand, he said. Nar was soon enveloped in an electrical current. Raiden, electrical pulse. The duo of idiots shouted in pain as they were sent flying from the force of the Judo. Nar then made several hand signs before he began charring lightning chakra to his hand. He then made a beeline for Yoroi. Chidori. Yoroi was dead the second after his chest was pierced by the Chidori. No Yoroi, you bastard. I'll kill you. Nar empowered his Kai and Shuriken with wind chakra before throwing them. Shadow Shuriken Jutsu. Shadow Kana Jutsu. Nar shouted. Masumi managed to maneuver through some of the attacks, but still got cut by the rest of the Kana and Shuriken. Masumi managed to get in front of Naruto as he wrapped himself around the masked teen and began to squeeze. I'm going to make your death slow and painful, Masumi growled. You've got one chance to let me go or die a very painful death. Nar darkly said. Masumi released an obnoxious laugh. Ha, you must be really losing it to say that. Masumi mocked. Nar soon began to collect wind chakra into his right hand. I warned you, Nar whispered. Fuden wind scar, Nar shouted. Several sharp blades of wind erupted from Naruto's right arm as they tore through Masumi's body. The man had little time to react as his limbs were cut off and then his entire body was sliced into bits and pieces. By the time the jutsu ended, all that was left of the man known as Masumi was a giant pool of blood with chunks of the man's body scattered along the floor. Nausea began to fill Nar as he stared at the gruesome sight before him. The stench of the raw flesh and spilled blood caused him to go over the edge as he dropped to his knees before ripped the fox mask off as he vomited all over the floor. He continued to spill his guts for a few minutes before all that he could do was heave heavily as stayed on his hands and knees shaking. Naru and Nar could vaguely hear something. Naru too. It sounded like a voice. Naruto. Nar was beginning to release. Someone was calling him. Naruto. Nar jumped as he recognized the voice. Erichin. Narkun. Are you okay? I don't know what happened. I used the wind scar on an enemy. Single quote. ... I see. I can guess it left a gruesome for you to see. Why, yeah. Nar choked out. He soon felt a warmth filling his body. It was Ari's chakra. Ari thankfully leaves a portion of her chakra inside of Naruto in case of any emergency and she can manipulate it when necessary for Nar. Narokan, I know how traumatizing it can be, but you need to focus. Finish this mission and then you can let yourself go, but please bury this for now. Nar stayed quiet for a few seconds. He did not expect that much damage from his attack even at low power. He was just planning to cut his limbs, not rip him to pieces. But was the alternative any better? What was he going to do? Leave him on the floor without his limbs or put him out of his misery? Regardless of what he did, the results would remain the same. I understand, Ari-chan. Okay. See you soon, Naruto-kun. Nar then cut his connection with his partner. He needed to get up and save everyone else. Nar sighed as he slowly stood up as he put his mask back on. He flinched as he looked down to see his right arm shaking. He frowned under his mask. He still did not have enough control over the wind scar, which caused unnecessary damage to his arm. Hopefully, he regains feelings soon. Nar then began to take out several explosive notes from his storage seals. There was some work to do. Tsuya and Hinata finally reached the end of their corridor. Finally, I was getting tired of all this walking, Tsuya said. Me too, Hinata replied. See anything? She asked. Only two. One is Isari and the other looks like that Amachi fellow. The girls then busted the door down. Well, it seems we have some unwanted guests. Isari, be a good girl and take care of them. Why are you following this guy? He's just using you. Hinata shouted, hoping to get through to Isaribe, but she just shook her head. Like I told Menma, I have no choice. If I help him, he'll rid me of this curse. He won't cure you. He hasn't made a cure. He's just using you, Tsuya shouted, frustrated at this girl's stubbornness. She could give Naruto a run for his money. No, you're wrong, he promised. She insisted. Suddenly, Ari and Altair came from the door. About time, Tsuya said in an annoyed tone. Sorry, we got preoccupied. Altair teased. Oh, more guests. This should be Amachi began before. Boom. An explosion rocked the cave as the nearby wall collapsed and out from the dust came Naruto. Menma, sorry I'm late. Had to take care of some annoying pests. Ah, so you're Menma, I was expecting someone more intimidating. Amachi mocked. I could say the same to you. Nar retorted. Give up. You're surrounded. Hinata warned. Amachi had the nerve to laugh. And why would I do that? I am close to my next scientific breakthrough. I can't stop now. Well, then you and your research can go up in smoke. Akai Nar shouted. Explosions could be heard everywhere as the cave soon began to crumble around them. However, Amachi seemed undeterred at this development. Oh, good job. But it will take more than blowing this island to slow my research down. Looks like it's time to relocate. Kami Sirib. The two began to walk away. The team tried to stop them, but the ceiling above them soon collapsed, blocking them from following the duo. Let's less than greater than go. We can catch up later, Ari said. The group nodded as they teleported out of the cave. Come when we need to stop them before they stop the next trading ship. And this time, Amachi will die. Nar growled. Hinata and Tsuya seemed concerned at Naruto's tone while Ari used her mental link to soothe her vessel as much as possible. The team reunited with the freed prisoners. Nar told them to head to the main island to reunite with their families and warn them about Amachi. Many protested as they wanted to fight, but Nar said they have been through enough and to let them handle this. Before anyone could voice their displeasure, Naruto's team ventured off to take care of Amachi for good. They eventually reached the merchant ships with most of them having been destroyed and sinking into the ocean. Amachi was pleased with the progress until Nar and his girls appeared before him. Amachi simply sighed in annoyance. You're a stubborn group, you know that. He said, this time we will stop you for good. Nar growled. You seem rather confident, Isorbi. Isari in her ka form jumped out of the water and got between the two sides. Well then, before we begin, let me bring in a special guest. Amachi said with a sinister smile. Amachi then brought out a seal and opened to reveal a seal. Kai. Out of the smoke came a tall orange-haired teen in chains. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to Jugo. The origin of the curse mark of Orochimaru. Origin of the curse mark. Everyone muttered in confusion. You see, Jugo comes from a clan that is able to naturally absorb natural energy into their bodies through their skin. However, it seems they easily susceptible to becoming rampaging beasts. Everyone's eyes widened while Ares and Altars narrowed. Orochimaru was fascinated by this and studied Jugo and using his own knowledge of senjutsu to create the curse mark of today. I'm sure you noticed some of the failed experiments in the labs. They lost any sense of logic. They were nothing more than insane beasts. Altair said. Amachi just waved her off. A science requires some sacrifice to advance. Nar let loose a burst of ki and chakra. Enough. You have spoken enough for one lifetime. Nar snarled. Indeed, the time for talk is over, Jugo. The restraints on the teen were released. He looked up at the group with a maniacal grin. Kill them all, Amachi said as Jugo began to laugh like a maniac. Haha, I hope you bastards are ready to die. Jugo Mana screamed as his arms soon began to morph into a monstrous form with axes on the sides. Ari and I will handle Jugo. Hinata and Tuya will handle Isari. Menma take care of Amachi. Altair told everyone. With pleasure, Naruto said as everyone split off for their battles, leaving only Amachi and Nar. Well, it seems it's just you and me now, Menma. Not for long, Nar growled. Amachi just laughed as he took out 2 syringes. Allow me to show you the achievement of have I made with my own body. Amachi then stabs himself with the syringes as the liquids entered his body. Amachi soon starts to convulse as his began to grow and his muscles began bulging. His skin became white and gray. His hands and feet became claws. A fin grew on his back. His teeth become sharp and serrated. His eyeballs became jet black. By the end of the transformation, he looked like a 10 featuring tall bipedal shark. Think of King Shark from the CW's Flash. Feast your eyes on the fusion of my cameo project and Orochimaru's curse mark. Nar just looked annoyed. Why am I always facing people with a shark motif? First Zabuza, then Kizum, and now this guy. Did I piss off some fish god in another life? Ready to die, Nar expelled some electricity. You first, he challenged. Nar then dashed in a burst of speed and landed a haymaker on the Amachi's face. But to his shock, Amachi barely registered the hit. I thought you would have more to offer, he said in a disappointed tone before reeling his fist back. This how you punch. Nar barely managed to dodge as the shark's fist slammed into the floor of the ship and destroyed a good portion of the ground around them. Enhanced super strength reminds me of Sununate. Suddenly, he disappeared again and reappeared in front of Nar. Naruto's eyes widened at the speed before he was hit the gut by the enlarged fist and was sent flying into the ocean. Narkin Hinata shouted in concern, it's over. He can't win. Isari said she got 2 heavy glares and growls from Hinata and Yuya. Quiet you. I'm not the one tied down by chains at the moment. The hot-headed redhead shouted. She then turned to see Hinata looking on in concern before placing an arm on her shoulder. Relax. Nar can handle this, she reassured her. But he's all alone. He has us and we'll help him when he needs it. But he handled that giant piece of sushi. Ari and Altair already finished their fight and haven't done anything because they know Nar can handle this. Hinata nodded but still looked on in concern. Narutkin is struggling. Altair said, relax. I know. My kid can handle this. Ari said, Meanwhile, Nar had still not risen from the ocean. Come on, boy, don't he tell me all those threats were for boasting. Amachi mocked. Suddenly, several dragons of water appeared and made a beeline for Amachi. Is that all you can hit me with? Water dragons. Amachi slammed his fist into the water dragon and caused it to explode. However, Amachi noticed something was wrong. His concerns were confirmed when he saw a number of gashes and cuts on his arm and forearm. What the hell? He was cut from his musing when another much bigger water dragon slammed into his chest. He could feel several gashes ripping his chest open as he slid across the water's surface. Before he could react, Nar jumped out of the water with a sphere of chakra on his hand. Rasengan. The sphere was slammed into Amachi's chest as he was sent even further back as he sank into the ocean in a giant boom as the water rose into the sky. Nar continued to wait to see if that finished the battle. However, that went out the window as he heard some chuckling as Amachi appeared on his feet again. I must say, I underestimated you. That attack was quite damaging. If it weren't for my transformation, I would be dead. Nar narrowed his eyes at the transformed scientist. How are you still standing? No transformation could be that powerful. You forget I used young Jugo's DNA in this transformation along with some of those Uzumaki girls. Their DNA came an incredible life force and an amazing healing factor. I can heal from any injury, so unless you got something that can disintegrate me, you have no chance. Nar released an inhuman growl from his throat at that. This is the first time I actually hate my genes. I am going to kill this bastard for using my clan for his sick experiments. Nar snarled in his head. Shall we continue? Amachi mocked before going through some hand signs. Sweden water gun. Raiden Zaker. The two attacks of water and lightning collided, causing an explosion in their arena. The two stared at one another, waiting for the other to make the next move. Just be honest. You had no intention of curing Isari and the others. You were just using them until they solved their purpose before you got rid of them. Don't deny it since I got it from one of the guards. Amachi just scoffed. So what if I was going to throw them away? They were tools. And like any tool, when they are no longer useful, you throw them away and get a new one. Besides, Isari was just so pathetic. I had no intention of healing her or the others. I made up that little lie to her about a cure, and she's on her hands and knees begging me for it, saying she'll do anything to get the cure. I wished I let my partners have some fun with her before now, and at least she would have been useful one more time. But oh well, we can't have everything right. Isori was shell-shocked as she couldn't believe what she just heard. Everything I did was all a lie. She whispered in horror. Now then, let's less than greater than get on with our battle. Amachi jumped into the water. Nar looked around before Amachi came out and slashed Naruto on his back. Ah! Amachi jumped into the water again. Nar tried to find him again, but he cut across his chest for his efforts. This continued for several minutes as Naro was cut and slashed again and again. Finally, Amachi rose up as Naruto was bloody with several gashes all over his body and blood was oozing from the bottom of his mouth and down his mask, and the left eye piece of the mask was ripped off, revealing his eye. Amachi looked interested at what he was seeing. Well, this is interesting. Amachi hummed. Your point. Nar snapped. I thought all of you were killed off years ago. Reports have been greatly exaggerated. Well, this is interesting. First, I meet that Uchiha with Orochimaru, and now I meet you. So, Sasaki and Orochimaru were here. Oh, well, less trouble for us. Now, then, I've had some fun, but it's time to kill you. Amachi dashed at Nar with his clawed hands extended to pierce his chest. Suddenly, a wall of water appeared in front of Nar. Like that will stop me, Amachi said. Amachi pierced the wall and went right through Nar. Ha! I win, brat, Amachi shouted in a gleeful tone. However, Amachi's victory was short-lived as he could tell something was wrong as Nar just smiled before turning into electricity. Ah! Amachi grunted as his entire body was enveloped in electricity. A lightning shadow clone, Amachi said in shock. Suddenly, several clones jumped out of the water as they held on to him. Then another Nar came out with his hand, soon becoming coated in lightning. Chidori, he stabbed Amachi in his lower abdomen. Nar then jumped before making a seal with one hand. Kai then all of the clones glowed before they all exploded in an electrical flash on Amachi. The deformed Sharpman was sent flying back from the explosion. As Amachi tried to stand as his skin was swizzling from the burns he received from the electrical explosion, he looked up to see Nar with most of his wounds gone. "How are you healed?" Amachi said in shock. Nar just smirked under his mask. "Thank my mother's side of the family along with some special gifts I have." Nar teased. Amachi just growled. "That won't be enough to stop me, boy." As he stood up, Nar noticed there was still a noticeable hole where Amachi was pierced with the Chidori. Nar examined Amachi's body as he saw electrical currents still going around his body. This gives Naro an idea. Raiden Zakuruga. The beam was similar to a regular Zaker, but it was condensed into a spiral beam. Amachi just laughed. "That attack won't work." A Sweden water gun. The two attacks collided, but to the shock of Amachi, the Zukaruga pierced through the water attack and landed a direct hit on him. In the exact location where he was hit by the Chidori that was still open. He then felt surging pain as he felt his insides get electrocuted as the attack went through his body and then out of it. Amachi fell to his hands and knees. Even with the healing factor, he could feel the damage was significant enough to take some time to recover. He looked down to his lower abdomen to see the gaping hole still present. He also noticed electricity still going through him. "Why am I still in pain with electricity?" he muttered to himself. Then he remembered something about the explosion. "Wait, the clones," Nar smirked. "That's right. The clones were charged with electricity when they went off. I hoped that you being soaked with water would increase the damage due to water being a huge conductor for lightning. But when it didn't do enough damage, I noticed some electricity remained and decided to use it to my advantage. The Zakuruga is a lot stronger than a regular one and is able to absorb electricity to make itself stronger." Amachi growled. "You planned this from the get-go. Charge me with electricity to get your attack to get stronger as it went through damaging internally and externally." Amachi accused. Nar just looked amused. "Maybe now give up or you can resist and I kill you." "Please choose resistance." Nar growled. Amachi growled back in defiance like "I will lose you. I still have my last trump card. Come Yumi Bozu." Suddenly, a giant blob of water came up from below Nar. "What the foo?" Nar was cut off as he enveloped by the blob. Naroke Hinata shouted in worry. "What the hell is that?" Tuyuya asked in disgust at the creature. "Behold my loyal servant, the Yumi Bozu. A water demon I discovered years ago that obeys all my commands. With him in the seas and this body, I will be invincible. I will be king of the seas." Suddenly, parts of Yumi Bozu began to be frozen in ice. "What the hell?" Suddenly, chains grabbed Amachi by the wrist and ankles. Suddenly, Sona and Sarafal appeared around Yumiu with Karen and Hanoka holding Amachi in place. Moriana and Ra appeared by Hinata and Tuya. Then, Sujitsu appeared out of the water and stabbed him with a sword he found in one of his opened wound. Amachi coughed up some blood. "What are all of you doing here?" Hinata asked. "We came to help," Ra responded. "You ungrateful BRS. We were on the threshold of a scientific breakthrough and this is how you repay me." Amachi asked in rage. Suetsu scoffed. Screw you, Doc. You just saw us as lab rats and it's time to pay. Suddenly an explosion of power got their attention. Yumi Buazu, Amachi shouted in horror. Nar appeared in his dragon form. His body was covered in a black and blue aura as scales covered the visible parts of his body, but no wings appeared like before. Serafel and the others that had arrived were shocked at the transformation. He's using it again, Alier said. Hopefully, he less than greater than LLN, this said. Su Getsu a Karen Ahanokita Higo. This is Maya fight to finish. Nar said in a distorted voice. The others were a bit concerned with Nar and what he was asking of them. You sure, man? Su Getsu asked. Menma. We have him where want him. We can take him together. Karen said, but Nar shook his head. Don't worry. I'll end this, he said. The three looked at one another before reluctantly moving away from Amachi. The moment the chains were gone, Naruto disappeared in a burst of speed before appearing in front of Amachi and delivered a devastating haymaker to his fish face and continued to do so for several minutes until Amachi had enough. I will not let end like this. He roared defiantly. The two began trading blows back and forth, but Nar had the advantage. Nar delivered a harsh fist to his gaping abdomen that made Amachi roar in agony. He clasped his arms and slammed them on Naruto's head and the top part of mask broke off. As blood spurted out of his head and part of his hair turned blonde. Nar staggered from the blow as Amachi was about to attack again, but Nar caught both of his arms. Then Nar looked at him with inhuman snarl on his face. Then the half-masked teen used an incredible amount of his chakra into his arms and began to pull until snap. Squish. He ripped the arms right out of the arm sockets. Amachi wailed in pain as blood spewed from his body like crimson geysers. Everyone was left stunned at Naruto's brutality. Damn, Naruto is brutal, Kai Yuya said. He must still be pissed at what Amachi has done. Hinata explained. Damn, that is hot, Ari. Yeah, it is, Ultier said. Naruto then coated his left arm in wind chakra. Fuden wind scar. Amachi's chest was ripped open even more. Blood oozed out like a waterfall and several organ and pieces of muscles and tissues were falling out. Nar decided to end this for good. As he began to concentrate, his chakra swirled into his right arm. He was forming a Rasengan, but was pouring more chakra than normal. Soon, a Rasengan the size of a basketball was in his hand. That's a big renown, Tuya muttered in awe. This is the end. Owama Razan. The attack slammed into Amachi and there was a flash before the mad scientist's body was ripped to pieces in violent explosion of blood, guts, and gore. Nar was breathing heavily from the large amount of chakra he wasted and the damage taken in the fight. Darkness soon began to settle in as his senses were shutting down. The last thing he could hear as he was losing consciousness were the shouts of people calling his name. AA still got a lot to learn. Hikari. Yummy. Nar said, what do you want? Nar wearily asked. Just to say congratulations. Those were some amazing kills. Yummy complimented. Ruthless, painful, and sadistic. I knew you had it in you. I did what was necessary. Nar retorted. Keep telling yourself that. You know deep down you hated them. You wanted to kill them. You enjoyed killing them. You loved it. Just like you wished you could do the same to all those bastards in Konoha. Yummy then gave Naru a demonic smile. I know you all too well, Hikari, he said. Are we done? Nar asked in exasperation. Yummy just sighed at Hikari's stubbornness. If you want it to end, you could fight me. No, at least not yet. You can't wait forever. Maybe, but today is not that day. Whatever you say, Hikari. Naruto's world became black again. Nar woke up to find himself on a small mattress. He looked to see all the girls around talking with one another. Hey everyone, he said softly as all the girls turned to see him awake. Nar grunted in pain as they all jumped on top of him to glump him in a hug. Nark-kun, Hinata said in joy before smacking Nar on the chest. Don't scare us like that again. Nar nodded. What happened while I was out? Everyone is celebrating and rejoicing at the return of the missing villagers. Everyone even apologized to Isaribe for blaming her, although she keeping her distance and staying with the others. Nar looked at Ultier. Did you confirm? Ultier nodded. Yeah, you were right. They do use magic. Nar began rising out of the bed despite the protest of the girls until he was leaning on the wall to stand. Let's go talk to them, he said. The girls were going to deny this, but knew how stubborn he can be and decided to help him stand as they went to find everyone in the living room talking. Sujitsu was the first to notice them. Looks who's up. Nice to see you up, boss man. Sugetsu said with a smirk. Nar smirked back. Likewise, Sujitsu. Well, who are you really? Seraphil asked. Nar sat down on one of the available couches. My real name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Everyone's eyes widened in shock. Wait, you're related to the Yandai Hokage? An incredulous Sona asked. Nar nodded. He's my father. That got everyone's jaw to drop onto the floor. Damn. Sugetsu summed up. Wait, what are you doing here? Why aren't you in Konoha? Akino asked in confusion. They were surprised to see the faces of their saviors darken in rage. Well, it went something like this. Nar began before explaining how he was banished for the mission to bring back their renegade teammate and for being a Jinchuriki. Everyone was left shocked and disgusted by Konoha's actions. The Uzumaki girls were especially pissed off by how their brethren was treated. Damn, that's some underscore, Sujitsu said. Nar nodded. Indeed, which comes to my proposal. This got the clan's attention, which is Seraphil asked. Join me and become part of my village, the new Shiogakure. He said. The Uzumaki girls were shocked to hear that he wanted to bring back their ancestral home. Your clans would be adopted into the clan and can become part of Usuzu as their royal pillars along with any other clan we can convince to join us. And Sugetsu here can create his swordsman group in Kuria in Usuzu if he wishes once he gets all the swords. Everyone was in deep thought. This could be a new beginning. For all of them, especially for some of the villagers that were still transformed. They were being offered to become part of something new, something great. I'm in. You seem to be a gaggle of fun. Sujitsu said, I will join as well. I would like a fresh start. Isari said as several other mer people nodded. You have our support automatically with you bringing back Usuzu. Hanoka said as the other Uzumaki girls nodded. Leviathan Citri. Nar asked as he looked at the remaining two groups. Seraphil then walked up to Nar before stretching her hand out. She smiled. We will join you as well. She said. Nar smiled in return as she shook her hand. It seems the first clans to join have arrived and more to arrive soon. Nar sighed as he laid on the grass as he gazed up at the morning sky. Now I see why Shikamaru enjoyed doing this so much. It had been around a few months since the new additions were made to his family and everything was going well, all things considered. Most of the new arrivals adapted rather quickly to their new environment. The mutated mer people were welcomed with open arms by the land of waves. Since they couldn't reverse the transformations completely, Naruto suggested should make the most out of them. They easily became the best fishermen for the country and could easily travel to Usuzu in minutes. Some of the ladies were easily taken to many of them. Isori was also adjusting to the new life. However, she didn't want to be just a simple civilian. She wanted to use her abilities to help her new friends. This led to her decision of asking everyone if she could be trained to be a shinobi. The other accepted her and Sugetsu along with open arms in the training. Now Sujitsu was a bit odd case to deal. The first thing he did when arriving at Wave was asking Nar where Zabuza's grave was. Nar knew he had to uphold his end of the agreement and took him to the grave site. It was highly amusing to see Sugetsu's gobsmacked face when he laid eyes on the sword. I guess he still believed Nar would backstab him, which in hindsight, Nar could hardly fault him for not believing him. The biggest surprise for Nar was that Sugetsu did not immediately run and take the sword from the grave. Instead, he walked over and slowly took the blade before chanting a few words before sheathing the sword and walking back with Nar. It was the final chant, a way of passing the torch from one swordsman to another. Then there was Jugo. Oh boy, Jugo was a hassle, but not through any fault of his own. Due to his clan's unique biology, he would go out into regular episodes of rage. Thankfully, Ari and Altair developed a seal to suppress this bloodline until they helped Jugo control those abilities without fear of going into a blind rage. Although they did give him the ability to switch the seals off when he is in combat. Nar and his fellow Utsuaki sisters that had the chain ability learned to use them to restrain Jugo until he calmed down from his psychotic episodes of rage. Nar had to smile when he thought about his fellow Uzumaki sisters. Karen was originally from Kusugaka and actually participated in the Chunin exams at the same Naruto and Hinata were. When asked why she didn't proceed, she explained that her team got killed in the Forest of Death and she would have joined them if Sasaki hadn't saved her. This started a small infatuation with the boy, but that died after hearing what he did to her family. She then explained how a few months after that her village was attacked and she was kidnapped. She later found out that the one that orchestrated the kidnapping was Orochimaru, and then she was sent off to that lab with Amachi. Elizabeth had a similar backstory except she lived with her mother in hot water country. Although she never knew her father, her mother explained that he was not an Uzumaki. Thus, the pinkish hair and where her skills with weapon forging and blacksmith came from. One day, her home was invaded and that was the last she saw of her mother. Hanoka explained she was an orphan and did not know much of her parents. They did leave her with some journals that explained her heritage and the legacy she has to uphold. She was working with some scientists to create the ultimate summoning beast, but the beast went berserk and destroyed the entire lab. The last thing she saw before blacking out was debris collapsing on her. When she awoke, she was caged by that bastard Amachi. Then came the Leviathan and Cetri clans. Those two had the most difficult time adjusting to everything. Not because they weren't welcomed. The people of Nami welcomed all the newcomers with open arms. The problem was that many were still not very open to everyone due to the time they spent imprisoned. The most guarded were mostly the Satri clan, especially Sona, as she still had trouble trusting Nar. Although thankfully her sister was more than willing to be the intermediate to bring peaceful discussions, Nar was very much considered making her head of foreign affairs since she seemed to thrive in the environment. Serafal giggled and said she'll do anything for her savior. That was another thing Nar noticed. The Leviathan clan were gigantic perverts, flirts. Serafal, Akino, and Rainer would flirt and tease him on a constant and regular basis every time he passes by one of them. Hell, they would go out of the way to sneak a peek at his body and sometimes try to cup a field somewhere. Hell, they somehow convinced Hinata and the others to help them. Needless to say, it left him twitchy for several days. However, Nar noticed that Serafal was a lot more upfront with her flirting. And seemed more clingy to him compared to the other girls. Hinata told Nar that she may have gained a crush on him. Nar said that this could have been hero worship. Hinata retorted that there was a spark of genuine affection for him, but Nar wasn't sure what to do because he didn't want to risk both of them getting hurt. Hinata suggested that he could get to know her and where this affection goes. Maybe she'll even become another Herm sister, which caused both of them to blush red. The Lefthan clan consisted of Serafel, Aino, Rainer, Barakwal, Shuri, Dake, Midite, and Kalawarner. While the Satri clan consisted of Sona, Momo, Sububaki, Raswi, Saji. Nar was confused by how Serafel and Sona were sisters but part of different clans. Serafel explained they were half-sisters having the same mother but different fathers. However, that meant little to them as they acted like sisters. Although Serafel tended to be rather clingy when it comes to Sona, much to the latter's embarrassment. They were a colorful group of people and Naruto could say he got along with everyone in both clans. Nar sighed as he thought about the two biggest events that occurred these past few months. The first one was going to the village hidden under the stars and revealing a conspiracy being committed by the Hosokage. Apparently, the village was founded based on a meteorite the locals called a star landed close to 100 years ago. It was through this meteorite that the village was built around. Later, the shinobi of the village discovered that the meteorite emitted chakra-enhancing radiation and learned to harness it. It was the Shaddam Hoshikage that devised a training method that allowed his shinobi to absorb this radiation and gain supernatural levels of chakra. However, with this great power comes great risk. The Sandaime Hoshikage discovered that the chakra of the meteorite took too much of a toll on the user's body. Such overuse would cause the body to become corrupted and decay, which eventually would lead to the user's death. The Sandaime would ban the practice of the training, but he would later be assassinated by a power-hungry idiot by the name of Akahoshi. Akahoshi wanted the village to be recognized as one of the great villages along with the other 5 and reinstated the star training. The guy was a power-hungry creep and Nar had no complaints in kicking his and ending the star training for good, which involved Naruto blooming the thing up to Kingdom Come. It was rather satisfying. In the end, several shinobi were saved from being corrupted by the star training. A tyrant was taken down and Yusuzu got a new ally supporting them. Next was going to the Land of Spring to meet up with Princess Kuki. It was an interesting experience to say the least. It was a fun reuniting with Kuki and catching up with everything that's happened these past few months. Kuki said that her country had been expanding its technology to encompass the entire country and not just near the capital. One showcase was expanding the railroad system, so it passed through nearly every city within the country. This would decrease travel time of transporting goods between towns and increase their efficiency for trading. Kuki and her top engineers were even thinking of allowing the trains to be used for domestic travels by the people, but there were some kinks to still work out on that project. The same can be said with the blimps that Spring had in inventory. Nar was honestly by how far the Land of Spring took their advancements. He still remembered how sore his legs felt from trying to outrun that damn train. So using them for transportation was an ingenious idea. Kuki asked, "What is Naruto's plan regarding Konoha?" Nar explained that he'll leave Konoha alone for now. He did not have the resources yet to deal with that village yet. Once Yusuzu has risen to power, that's when we'll deal with them directly. Koyuki snorts, asked Naruto what will happen if Konoha tries to get him back. Sooner or later, they may want to get their Ginuriki back, something that disgusted Koyuki to no end. Nar says he has a plan to keep Konoha off his trail for some time. After much talks, Nar and the girls decided to relax for the time they had. Nar was enjoying some time in the hot springs. That was until Ari and a few of the girls came out and joined. This got very bad for our blonde hero. Flashback. This feels nice. Nar mused as he allowed himself to sink into the water. Nar sighed in content. With how hectic things have, Nar has not had a lot of time to rest and relax like this. I could get used to this, he said out loud. I agree, Narkin. A smooth voice said. Nar quickly turned and his face turned tomato red at what he was seeing. Standing a few feet from him were Ari, Hinata, and Serapho. All of them without clothes with only a towel covering their modesty. What are you doing here? Nar asked in a panicked tone. Ari merely gave a small grin of amusement. This is a co-ed bath, Naruto. We thought you could use the company. That isn't a problem, right Naruto? Hinata asked with a small blush. You wouldn't send us away, right? Nar gulped as he saw the three girls give him those big puppy eyes with quivering lips. He knew that resistance was futile at that moment. No, of course not. You can come in and enjoy the bath as well. Nar said in a nervous tone. Yay. The three girls cheered as they got into the water. Nar stiffens as Ari gets right behind him. He could feel the warmth that was coming out of her body. I'm not bothering you, right? Narkin, she asked. Nar gulped. And you could never bother me, Ari. He replied, but not daring to look back. However, if he did, he would have seen the gleam in Ari's eyes as she gains a small, seductive smirk on her lips. I am so glad. It means we can enjoy each other's company, she purred. Nar shivered as he felt her blow behind his ear. You like that? Nar gulped as he nodded. Ari then got closer to his ear. Good. I hope you enjoy this, she whispered. Nar slightly jumped as he felt her hands get rather close to his thighs. Ari, he asked in a nervous tone. She hummed in question. Naro tried to say something, but it came out as a garbled mess. Something wrong? She asked in a fake, confused tone. I know, not exactly, Buddha. Ari giggled at her vessel. Don't worry, I'll make sure you enjoy this. Nar could feel her hands close to his delicate areas as he could feel himself heat up like an inferno. Nar then felt two pairs of arms grab him. He turns to see Hinata and Serapho looking at him with big puppy eyes with quivering pouts. Naruto were here too, Hinata said. It's less than greater than rude not to pay attention to us. Serapho said, don't worry, Naruto could make some clones to entertain everyone. Ari suggested. Nar felt his entire body go red with Hinata getting cherry red with Serapho getting a slight nosebleed. Really, Nar, would you mind? Serapho asked in an excited tone. Can I get one as well? Hinata asked with a twinkle of excitement in her eyes. Nar was getting dizzy from the girls' antics as he heard another voice interrupt them. Is this an exclusive party or could anyone join? Everyone turned and Nar felt his heart pick up the pace again. There stood Chi with her hair in a bun with only a towel covering her body. Nonsense. Of course, you can join. The more the merrier, right, Hinata? Ari asked as she looked at the lavendery girl. Hinata squeaked before nodding her head. That's right. I don't mind, Serapho said. Huki smiled at the girls before looking at Nar. Nar's sure of CC course. Nar stuttered out. Huki then got as she took a position in front of Nar as she enjoyed the warm sensation from the waters. All Nar could just stare at how prime her body was. No ounce of fat was on her, but she had a slim but firm frame. Being an actress must help her keep in shape. Huki saw Naruto staring and smiled. So Nar? She asked as Nar did his best to look at her face and not her body. About you. Taking multiple wives. Koyuki started as Nar felt his heartbeat go up a few notches. Yes, he said nervously as Koyuki gave him a sly smile. I was wondering if I could join as well. Huh, he shouted. All the girls giggled in amusement. Is it shocking? You are seen as a hero in this country, not to mention it's thanks to you that my eyes were open. Plus, I will need to conceive a child eventually. Who better to help me than the hero of these lands? Huki then got very close to Nar with Nar getting a near perfect view of her cleavage that was squished on his chest. So Nar, will you help me produce an heir? That was the stimulation Nar could take as he promptly fainted as all the girls giggled in amusement again. All in all, he had a rather productive meeting in Spring Country. End of flashback. Nar blushed at the memory before he shook his head as he sat up to calm himself down. He then took out something from his pockets. It was a familiar dark blue handle from his mission to the land of tea. The Ron no Ken. Apparently the locals from the country found it and decided to give it to Nar as he was the one to defeat Aoi. Unfortunately, the thing was damaged so it could not be used properly yet. So Naruto's new goal was to learn about the seals used to create this weapon to understand how it works and maybe get it to function again. Unfortunately, that was easier said than done. He had no idea how the Nadaime ever created this weapon as there weren't many mentions of the weapon in the academy or in Konoha's historical records. Plus, any mentions of its creation and design would probably be in the Senju compound in Konoha. But Nar believes he can find a solution with the scrolls and notes from his parents and clan. Nar, someone called to him. Nar turned to see Karen came rushing towards with a slightly panicked look. Karen, what wrong? Come quick. Sugetsu is being unreasonable and you're the only one he'll listen to. Nar sighed as he got up and the two rushed back to Suna's house. Naruto finds Sugetsu arguing with Hanoka and Elizabeth while everyone else is trying to calm them down. I said, I'm going and that's final. Sugetsu said, you idiot. You need to hear if Naruto will approve of this. Hanoka said in an aggravated tone. Exactly. So you would stop thinking with your damn sword and use your brain for once. Elizabeth said as Sugetsu glared at her. Stay out of this, Barry-chan. He retorted as Elizabeth growled at him. Why you? Enough. Nar shouted as he got tired of the back and forth. Now what the hell is this about? It all started about an hour ago when we found 3 men drifting near the shores. We immediately took them to receive medical attention. Thankfully, none of their injuries were life-threatening. Nar nodded. I see. Go on. Well, we find out that they are from the Katabami gold mines in the land of rivers. The Katabami mines are one of the greatest mines in the land of river and one of the richest sources of gold in all the elemental nations. However, about 6 months ago, some hooligans called the Kurosuke family appeared. They came under the disguise of providing protection before taking over the entirety of the mines. Anyone that was against them was buried alive or outright killed. Well, that's disturbing on numerous levels. But I am still not following why you're interested in this Suigu. Nar asked as he turned to the white-haired swordsman. It's less than greater than because of the guy leading this family. They said his name is Ria, one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist. Sujitsu said as Nar nodded. So that's what this is about. But how are you so sure it's the same Ria? It's because they explained the weapons that Ria used. Twin, slim, straight, double-edged blades with upper curved blades near the tip on both blades and another pair near the base of the blades. That description matches the Ka blades of Kiri. Nar hummed in thought. Come on, please. This is a golden opportunity. Sugetsu pleaded. We could use this as leverage for negotiating with Kiri. Not to mention, I could possibly get some info on Kisame from Ria. Not to mention, after hearing it, not helping these people would leave a bad taste in my mouth. Nar said out loud, so, Sugetsu drawled out. Yes, Suetsu will go to the land of rivers. Yes, Sugetsu said as he pumped his fist into the air. Everyone else merely rolled their eyes at his antics. However, you're not going without a team. I'm going since you're vulnerable to electricity. We less than greater than LL also need a sensor and a heavy hitter, Nar said sternly before turning to Karen and Jugo. Karen, you and Jugo are coming with us, Nar said in a firm tone. What? Several people shouted. Are you sure? Jugo said in an uncertain tone. He didn't think he was ready for an actual mission yet. Nar nodded. Yeah, everyone is currently busy. Plus, it would be good to shake the team dynamics a bit. Nar then turned to his furry partner. Ari, are you coming? He asked in a curious tone, but the fox lady shook her head. Unfortunately, no, I want to see how far. You can go without my help. Nothing personal, Narun, but I want to see what you're capable of. Nar nodded. All right. Nar then turned to his teammates for this mission. Get ready for a long trip, guys. Road to the land of rivers. It was a few days later that the three men were healthy enough to escort them back to their country. The trip was going to take a few days, but Rokusik was adamant of getting back home as soon as possible to save someone by the name of Keipachi, who was buried alive when they left. Unfortunately, the man was probably dead at this point without any food or water. As they managed to get near a cliff connect to the mines, they decided to stop at a local curry shop. Welcome travelers. How may I help you? The old cook asked. We were hoping if we could stay for the night. We will pay you handsomely. Nar said politely. Are you shinobi? She asked as Naruto nodded. Yes. We are on a mission currently. I see. Well, you are welcome to stay. Please sit down. I'll make some of my special curry of life. Karashi, get a pot of curry ready. She shouted to the kitchen of the restaurant. Hi, Grandma, shouted a voice back from the kitchen. Nar nodded in appreciation. Thank you. The group sat down to wait for their meals before planning out how they would infiltrate the mines. So, what's the plan? Sugetsu quietly asked. According to the three men, we'll just a jog from the mines. So, we'll stay the night and then head early in the morning. Hopefully, we'll get some reconnaissance done and from there plan out how we can take them out. Agreed, his team said in unison. Here you go, everyone, the old lady said as she and her grandson handled out the food. The food served was a black-colored curry that was boiling. Everyone looked rather nervous. Even the stoic Jugo was sweating a bit. What exactly is this? Nar nervously asked. I feel like I am going to die from this, Sujitu said, which could actually be literal due to the biology of his body. Or maybe something worse than death, Jugo muttered. It can't be that bad. All right, Karen said in a hopeful tone, although she was not being very convincing with her voice shaking. Wella, here goes nothing, Nar said as he took a spoonful and swallowed with the rest doing the same. In an instant, all their faces went atomic red as their eyes popped out of their sockets. Gah! HH! Everyone shouted as they felt their bodies were literally on fire. Good Kami, that is hot. Nar shouted. Who the hell could stomach this? Karen shrieked. Suetsu looked like a boiling puddle of water while Jugo looked like he fainted from the curry. While this was created, I met two shinobi that were training here for days. One of them collapsed near my doorstep, and I tried everything to wake him up, but nothing worked. That was until my grandson, Karashi, and I managed to create a curry that no one could sleep on. Thus, the curry of life was born. Karashi explained as he came out of the kitchen. Who are these Konohashi? Nar asked in a curious tone, although he had a sneaking suspicion of who Karashi was talking about. Karashi smiled. Rockla and Maida guy. Nar's sweat dropped at this. Yep, it would be those two that could stomach this. Yes, those two definitely have stomachs made of steel. Sugetsu groaned as he finally regained some semblance of consciousness. Everyone nodded as Jugo awoke from his heat-induced coma. Agreed, he muttered. Everyone, Rokusuk is gone. One of the civilians shouted as his burst into Naruto's room. What? Karen and Sujitsu shouted in annoyance and shock. He's probably gone into the town by now, explained the other civilian as Naruto growled in annoyance. That idiot, let's go, he shouted as everyone ran out of the curry shop and headed straight to the mines. Graveyard near the mines. Hold on, Keipachi. I'll get you out, Rokusuk muttered as continued to dig to reach the coffin that held his friend. As that's so, a voice suddenly said from behind him. Arkazuke jumped as he turned to see a cloaked man a few feet from him. He finally regained his bearings as there were several men around him. Ah! He shouted as he tried to back up only to realize as he looked around that he was completely surrounded. Looks like we're going to have another funeral, said the legacy cloaked man, Ria. So that's the mine, huh? Nar said as he looked down to several of the townspeople have to move several bags or carts of stones that contained the material for the gold. I can't wait to get my hands on Ria, an eager Swigu said. Nar tapped his shoulder to keep him from jumping down and start slashing away like a maniac. Patience. Karen, what do you sense? I can sense 6 chakra signatures. One is Roku. The largest of the 6 has to be Ria. Wait, I sense another signature with Ria. It's less than greater than a child, Karen began before asking out loud in confusion. Huh, never thought Ria will have a kid. Sujitsu said in a stunned tone. Where is the child exactly? Nar asked. It looks like he's on Ria's back, but the vision is blurry. Maybe a genjutsu from Ria or the child. Jugo asked, but Karen shook her head. I can't tell. Mused to himself. What's the plan, Narokan? Karen asked. For now, let's less than greater than observe the activities. There are plenty of followers that we may not be seeing, so let's move. There are 4 signatures close to the mines, a childish voice said from under the hood of the cloaked Ria. Are they strong? He asked. Very. The child confirmed. I'll enjoy burying them. Ria mused to himself as he moved into another location to greet his guests. Move it, old man, shouted one of the cloaked men as one of the elderly workers fell to the ground. This is terrible, Jugo said with a frown on his face. Nar, we've got to do something, Karen said as she wanted to jump in and save the wounded man. Nar stayed silent as he watched the man get chastised by the cloaked man. Nar, Karen shouted again. Nar turned to look at her. No, but we can't risk blowing our cover so easily. That would defeat the purpose of what we're doing, Nar said in slight frustration before looking back down and growling as the cloaked man was kicking the old man. However, I dislike seeing an old man beating like that. So, let's go, Nar shouted as the 4 dashed down to the area below. Nar quickly knocked the first goon out as it alerted the other 4. What the hell? Said another goon. Who the hell are you? Suddenly, the remaining goons were quickly dispatched by Karen, Sujitsu, and Jugo. Good Kami, the injured old man shouted in shock at what he just saw. Karen then approached the old man. Sir, are you? Karen started as she stretched her arm out to help the old man before the man slapped her hand away. What have you done? Listen, you need to beat me so that I won't get punished. Wait, sir, Karen said before the man began punching himself in the face. Forget it. I'll just beat myself up. The old man was about to bash his face in with a stone if Nar had not grabbed his outstretched arm before he landed the blow. Hold it. I know about the Kurosuke family. We are here to help. Nar tried to explain, but the old man was not listening to him. Suddenly, they all hear a bell go off. They all turned to the direction of the bell. A bell? Karen asked. What does that mean? Nar asked as he looked at the man. The old man looked down in sadness as tears began to fall from his eyes. It means another funeral has occurred. Every time that damn bell rings, it means that someone else is going to be buried. Poor Roku, he said in a depressed tone. Nar narrowed his eyes as he summoned several clones. Take the old man somewhere safe. Let's less than greater than go everyone. Nar moved to the Kurosuke household to end this for good. I remember Roku. He was so happy when I first came here and took down the magistrate and removing all the taxes. He laughed so joyfully. He was truly happy seeing me. Ah, how I love funerals. They make me so nostalgic. Ria preached to his audience as they lowered the coffin down into the ground. H4 are closing in. The child said. Ria merely smiled in anticipation. Hey, more people to bury. What do you sense, Karen? Nar asked as they hid behind a few large rocks. Roku Suk is in the coffin. But I am getting a foggy vision of Ria and everyone else. All right, move out, Nar said as they all split off while Nar dashed forward as he took out several smoke bombs. While Ria and his men were finishing burying the coffin were suddenly enveloped in black smoke. What intruders! Several of the men shouted as Ria disappeared. Nar and his company easily dispatched of the minions with little difficulty. Karen used her sensory power to look for Ria, but was shocked when something seemed to be blocking her. Damn it, she shouted in annoyance. Everyone looked at her in concern. Karen, what happened? I wasn't sure before, but I can tell that the kid with Ria or Ria himself is screwing with my sensory abilities. Karen said as that made the other three get tense as they couldn't rely on Karen to find the enemy in this fight. Maybe the kid he has a special bloodline. Nar warned as the others nodded. Soon a huge mist began to cover the area the four are in. Be on guard everyone. Suddenly Nar began to notice something. All of you get out of the way. The other had barely any time to move as lightning came down and struck Nar up in his hiding spot. Ria chuckled. Another person to add to the funeral list. Wait, that one we hid is still alive. The child spoke. Ria looked to his cloaked back. What's that? Ria turned his attention back to the area below to see Nar without any injuries. How the hell are you still standing? Let alone conscious. Ria shouted in shock. Nar gave an amused chuckle under his mask. That's my secret and for you to figure it out. Nar mocked as Ria growled in annoyance. Are all of you safe? Nar asked using his telepathy magic. Hi, they all said. All right, stay in position. Using his sharing gun, he sees several enemies coming towards him. Nar brings out two simple katanas as he charges them with lightning chakra. He charges at the enemies, but he is shocked that his swords impacted a couple of boulders. Nar was left dumbfounded. What the? Nar jumped back and then detected another two enemies to the side. He wiped with his swords again only to impact a tree. What's going on? Nar. What's up? Sujitsu asked. This enemy is more dangerous than expected. Not only can they disrupt sensors and put people in illusions that not even Dujutsus can detect or dispel. What? Everyone on his team shouted in shock. Damn, that is a broken bloodline. Sugetsu said. Nar, any ideas? Here's the plan. Nar then began explaining his plan to everyone. One in the middle, another to the left, another to the right, one on the bottom cliff. The last one is on the middle cliff. The child said as Ria nodded. Can't have funerals for all of them, so I will have to make sure there is no trace of them left. Ria said as he nodded to himself, Fuden whirlwind. A giant breeze blows through the mist, clearing the view for Naruto to see Ria on top of the cliff. What? Ria shouted in shock as Naruto stood there with an unimpressed look under his mask. You're going to have to better than that, Ria. Ria blinked before he hummed in amusement. So you know who I am. Well, this will make things all the more enjoyable once I bury you. Ria dashed downward in a burst of speed as his blades were coated in lightning. Nar coated his own blades with the wind as the blades collided. Wind and lightning expelled everywhere. Ho, I see you're a sword wielder. Tell me your name, Ria said with an amused tone. Menmauzukas, Naruto grunted as held his position against Ria, who smiled when he told him his name. Ria got a giant grin on his face. Oh, that's a good name. I'll remember it when I have your funeral, Ria said in an excited tone. Is that so? Ria, former member of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist. Ria glared at Nar. Don't remind me of those dark days. Nar scoffed. Too bad. I want answers and you're the only one I can get them from. Like hell, Ria said as he applied more pressure that Nar easily returned. The two moved back to give themselves some space for their next attack. Raiden Lightning Ball, Ria shouted as he fired off his attack. Nar channeled wind chakra into his blades that became many whirlwinds around the blades. Fuden, a wind blades. Nar shouted as he launched several blades of wind chakra. The two attacks collided, causing a minor explosion. The two ninja dashed forward. Nar tried a cross slash, but Ria jumped into the air as he performed a double downward slash. Nar managed to block it, but the sheer force caused the ground beneath him to crack and led to Nar stumbling a bit. Ria used this opportunity to slam a roundhouse kick into the disguised blonde's gut, sending him tumbling on the ground. Nar winced in pain as he got up. Thunder Funeral. Feast of Lightning.